Hello and welcome to JCS Technologies, where our motto is creating innovations for a better tomorrow. Today, our presentation will be presented by Jared Clark, myself, Sebastian, and Connor Rains. Now, before we continued with any design stage of our product, we first wanted to see if there were any inconveniences or pain points of people wearing masks and such. And the top two pain points that we discovered were your glasses fogging and the inability and inconvenience to eat and drink of having to take off your mask continuously. So we discovered from this that customers they want to have a mask that's comfortable and easy to use. So the goals that we have for our project is initially we wanted to identify the problems and struggles that people have whenever they wear masks. And then we want to continue to engineer a mask that can resolve these issues and struggles that we discovered. And then thirdly, we will then validate a mask design with any customers that may potentially be purchasing the mask later on in the future. And then finally, we want to ensure that it still caters to the preferences of the customer, even after the design stage.
Yeah, so before we begin the construction of our mask, we first created a high-level sketch of what we were trying to accomplish. And as mentioned previously, the main problems were for the glasses not to fog and for the mask to open and close efficiently to allow eating and drinking. At the top left of the screen, you see a normal mask with air escaping, which causes the glasses to fog. On our mask, you see to the right of that, our initial design had a red gasket material near the top of the mask, right above the nose. And that was our initial design, but we transitioned to the porous adhesive strip mentioned previously. And then you also have this white or this gray metal material wire that goes through the middle of the mask that elongates whenever and you want it to be opened, as shown in the bottom image, and then kind of stretches and compresses whenever you want the mask to close. And there's the black squares represent the chips and the power that will control this mechanism.
All right, and here we can see the next iteration of our design. So we had settled on a rough idea of the materials we needed, and so here's an image of the mask we chose to use and the various components laid out on top. So on the right side of the screen, you can see that we are using a Arduino microcontroller with 4 micro stepper motors. And on the left side, you can see a stand-in for what would be a rechargeable battery. And then across the bottom and middle, you can see the leather upholstery threading that would actually actuate the mask up and down. And then here's just a continuation of that. The components shown were a Arduino microcontroller, which was on the far right side of the mask, 4 Nidec micro stepper motors on the 4 corners, leather upholstery threading, the 3-volt stand-in battery, and the pair of 3's mask. The purpose of these is pretty straightforward. We of course had to use micro stepper motors to reduce size, but stepper motors so we could have precise rotations. We used leather upholstery threading due to its high tensile strength, so it won't stretch out over time. And then, like I said, we just had a 3-volt stand-in on the left, which we just had some shipping issues with the rechargeable battery.
This is just to explain the some equipment of the mask further. But in conclusion, overall, the goal of JCS Technologies was to improve the lives and the efficiency of mask wearers for people all around the world, just to relieve some common pain points. Along the road of developing this mask, though, it didn't go completely smooth. Just the fact that we acquired lower quality and faulty motors that set the project back, and this changed the course of the entire mask, and we had to pivot and adapt a little bit in the long run. But all of our future iterations will possess high quality materials and components that will efficiently resolve the pain points that we know are present in people's lives.
Hi, my name is Connor Rains, and I'm here to talk about the JCS Technologies E102 Entrepreneurship FEDD Group. And I'm here to talk about what we would do differently if we had the opportunity to do it again, as well as advice I would give as future freshmen. Alright, so first, what we would do differently. So the main downfall of our design was the stepper motors I had purchased. We kind of spent a lot of our time designing on paper and in CAD trying to figure out what we thought would be the best mechanism, the best design for the mask of what we wanted it to do. And we spent so much time drawing through sketches and trying to figure out what the best design was before we even purchased anything. So, which at the time made sense. But what ended up happening is we spent so much time designing that by the time we actually got the materials in, we didn't have time to really go back and further research what potential alternatives we had in terms of materials. So our biggest downfall was the stepper motors that we chose. Well, I personally chose. We got them in, we found them, and they had a great form factor that seemed online like they were going to check all the boxes we needed. But the main issue was that they had little to no torque. All but 3 of them, they came in a 20 pack, were damaged in shipping. The pins were either broken or misplaced. They had a huge overheating issue and little to no torque. And so just by doing some brief testing with the ones that arrived in decent condition, it was apparent that they wouldn't work with our design. And that is what ended up causing us to not having a working prototype during the FEDD presentation. And so that kind of also coincides with my advice for next year's freshmen. This project is really easy just to have on the back burner. And that's just the nature of a project like this, where you get it, you're assigned it in the first few weeks, and it's due in the last week of classes. And it's really important to have experience with projects like this because it requires you to be aware and stick to a timeline, which is something that you have to do in the real world, so I've been told. But so while we definitely didn't fall into a procrastination trap as much as we could have, there's definitely some areas where it's apparent that we could have done a better job sticking to our timeline and planning everything out. So that would definitely be my advice for next year's freshmen, is really pay attention to the timeline and allow for more weeks at the end. So even if it seems like you're assigning yourself a lot of work in the first few weeks, having a few free weeks at the end is so valuable, because you never know if only 3 of your 20 pack of motors are going to work. You never know if what you order is actually going to be a knockoff of the thing you thought you're buying. There's so much, you don't know what you don't know. So having time allotted so that you can make repairs, swap things out, and have time to be flexible is invaluable for a project like this.
Hey, my name is Jared Clark, and I'm a member of the E101 FEDD group, JCS Technologies. In regards to what challenges did my group face and how did we address these challenges, the main challenge was the fact that there were many materials that could have worked with our mask, many materials that could have achieved our goals efficiently. Therefore, we had to make an initial design that only conglomerated some of these materials, not everything. We didn't have time to check which materials worked the best. So using research papers, we established our initial design, and we ordered the parts that we would need with our mask. Though we had a unique design to where it wasn't just 3D printed materials, it was many different items that we had to order. So as explained previously, we faced difficulties with that as well. But the main challenge was the materials, and to fix that issue, we just had to focus a lot of time on research and making sure we were getting the right materials.
Hello everyone, my name is Sebastian Josefovich, and I will be speaking on how JCS Technologies did at the FEDD competition. Now, unfortunately, we didn't place in any positions, nor did we receive any honorable mentions. However, I do believe that my team presented strongly. We had a great product, and my teammates Jared Clark and Connor Rains, whenever their turn came to present throughout the presentation, they did a wonderful job. We spoke with confidence and we put our best foot forward. And unfortunately, it wasn't enough in the end, but I do believe we presented a great product